Yo, what's going on? Mike from Mike Talk Sports. In response of Beneil Dariush versus Charles Oliveira being rescheduled, Beneil Dariush asked the UFC if he can just simply wait for a title shot versus Islam Makhachev later on in the year, and they denied him. In today's video, we're going to be answering the question, is Beneil Dariush ever going to get a championship fight at 155? An alternate title to this video can be, will Beneil Dariush beat Charles Oliveira? Because that really is the answer to the question of, will Beneil Dariush get a title shot in the lightweight division? All he needs to do is simply beat Charles "Do Bronx" Oliveira, but obviously that is a very tough task because Charles Oliveira just went through an absolute tear through the entire lightweight division except Islam Makhachev, and despite their bout being canceled and rescheduled, they are still going to end up fighting for a title shot. Can Beneil Dariush beat Charles Oliveira? This is an extremely tough fight to predict. Let's get into it, and let's get into it on the feet. First off, in my opinion, Charles Oliveira does have the advantage on the feet. You're looking at the clinch and the clinch strikes. Charles Oliveira is absolutely elite in the clinch with his striking, specifically those knees and elbows to the clinch. So in my opinion, the clinch advantage is going to be Charles Oliveira. In terms of the kickboxing and at range, Charles Oliveira definitely has that advantage as well. Not only does he have teeps to the body, kicks to the leg, front kicks to the head to really get Beneil Dariush backing up and at bay in that outside kickboxing range with Charles Oliveira. But Charles Oliveira getting into his boxing and his inside boxing, he has no problem trading in the pocket with you. He has a significant amount of power, but so does Beneil Dariush. Beneil Dariush has that really powerful right hand, and even though I do give the technical ability on the feet in the boxing realm, in the kickboxing realm, in the clinch, Muay Thai, I do give that advantage to Charles Oliveira. In my opinion, Beneil Dariush is no slouch on the feet as well. He has an extreme amount of power in his hands, and he really does have a large potential to drop Charles Oliveira. The issue with Beneil Dariush's stand-up style, in my opinion, versus Charles Oliveira, and why I do favor Charles Oliveira on the feet, even though he probably will get dropped by Beneil Dariush because of his last couple of fights, is because of Beneil Dariush's really patient, plodding style of boxing, whereas I think with Charles Oliveira, you need to somewhat push him. If you don't push Charles Oliveira on the feet, he's simply going to stay at outside range. He's going to kick at you all day. Beneil Dariush's legs are going to get absolutely chewed up, and he's going to be hammering that jab straight home all day. Charles Oliveira, even though he's known for banging inside of the pocket and getting into these wild exchanges with guys such as Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje, make no mistake about it, Charles Oliveira is very content sticking to that extremely prolific jab that he does possess. Beneil Dariush's game plan going into this fight is going to be staying patient and staying on the outside of Charles Oliveira, trying to avoid those leg kicks, maybe coming over the top with a huge overhand right or a huge right straight hand. But in my opinion, the ground game is where Beneil Dariush is going to make his money in this fight. Beneil Dariush has never been submitted in his entire UFC career. This is a guy who is damn near impossible to submit. And there is now a blueprint to beat Charles Oliveira. You look at that Kevin Lee fight, you look at the Paul Felder fight, and then of course you look at the Islam Makhachev fight. Charles Oliveira is the best submission artist in UFC history. His ground game is absolutely incredible, especially off of his back. But the thing is, if you are a strong, dominant wrestler with a really good top game, you're good at fighting off of submissions, Charles Oliveira legitimately has absolutely garbage takedown defense. It pains me to say that as a big fan of Charles Oliveira, but legitimately his takedown defense is absolutely atrocious. It's a 0. He somewhat just invites the fight to the ground. So in my opinion, Charles Oliveira has never really actually given a significant amount of effort into denying takedowns. And to me, he could be significantly better at denying takedowns if he stopped with this mindset of, I actually want to fight off of my back in this fight. But to me, this is a big mistake against Beneil Dariush. Again, he has really, really good takedown defense. And more importantly, he has a really good top game with really good scrambles and transitions. The main fight I'm looking at to prepare for this fight is Beneil Dariush versus Martins Gamrot. And in this Gamrot versus Beneil Dariush fight, of course, Dariush looked really good on the feet, and that's somewhat what won him this fight. But the scrambles from Dariush, the fact that he's able to out-scramble and out-grapple Gamrot tells me that Beneil Dariush is competent enough in the grappling realm to not get submitted by Charles Oliveira. Unless there is a scramble and Charles Oliveira hops on the back of Beneil Dariush when they are standing up in an on-the-feet grappling exchange, to me, that's really the only chance Charles Oliveira is going to have at submitting Beneil Dariush in somewhat of a Dustin Poirier-esque way of how he submitted Dustin Poirier in that championship fight. But I do think Beneil Dariush is slightly going to edge out Charles Oliveira. That is going to be my official prediction. Beneil Dariush is going to win this fight by grappling, by dominating Charles Oliveira on the ground in top position, staying on the ground. I do think this is going to be a 3-round decision. If this ends up somehow being a 5-round main event in an Apex type situation, then I do think Beneil Dariush will be able to ground and pound finish him in potentially the 4th or 5th round. But again, if it is a 3-round fight, then I do think this is going to go to a decision, and I do think Beneil Dariush will win this decision because of his control time, because of his ground and pound, and potentially even because of a submission attempt. So to answer the question of the video, do I think Beneil Dariush is ever going to get a title shot? I do think Beneil Dariush gets a title shot after he beats Charles Oliveira. Again, I am a big Charles Oliveira fan, and I do think Charles Oliveira does have the advantage on the feet. And if this fight can just stay on the feet, I think Charles Oliveira ends up winning it. But I do think Beneil Dariush looks at every single time Charles Oliveira faces a wrestler and goes, yeah, I can grapple with this guy. I can control this guy on the ground with my dominant top position. Thanks for listening to the video, guys. I can't wait for Beneil Dariush versus Charles Oliveira. Let me know in the comment section below who you have winning this fight and why you think they will win this fight, because this is a fight I keep going back and forth on. It's a toss-up in my opinion. It's very 50-50. Thanks for listening, guys.